Well, hello there. Coming to you semi-live from the States. I'm Nick.
And I'm Tim.
And today we're having one of those fun little comparison videos. Now, I used to do verses, right? Like Gibson versus Gibson or Harley Benton versus. But really, this is just a tour of Stratocaster-style guitars. And we're going to do four of them. One is this guy, which is a Harley Benton ST70 in rosewood. This guy here, which is a Squier vintage modified Stratocaster with a nice cool 70s headstock. And then in reserve, we've got a boutique shell pink Strat with a set of Tex Mex Fender pickups in it. It's been tastefully relicked. And then the last one is, it's an all-American partscaster, so American standard neck, 7-up green Clapton body with a Clapton wiring harness on it. Just to kind of get an idea for the tones that go across all of them. You know, we did the review of the
this
Squier.
has previously been reviewed.
Tim was like, but it was funny because we were playing these earlier, and tell them what you were like, huh?
Yeah, when you have something to put it up next to, I think it puts it a little, makes the perspective a little clearer rather than just hearing it and that's it. So this thing kind of holds its own, especially for the whopping $100
money
you had to part with to get it. Looks like a Strat, sounds like a Strat. That's your neck. This guy
It's got some balls on the bridge.
that's just a run through of the tones on this.
And housekeeping. So Tim's playing out of a Fender Princeton reverb amp. I'm playing out of the PV Valve King 20 mini head, but I'm also using a Joyo AC tone pedal to kind of give it that a little bit more of a Britishy clean shimmer. So you kind of have a little one side of the pond and a little on the other side of the pond. I will say that when I got this guitar, I was really not happy with like the bridge pickup though. But then I raised the pickup up a little bit, and it made that, you know, so if you get like a D chord in position 2, you kind of get that nice, that little shimmer that they get. Where yours quacks a little more. And
I think you're coming out of a 12.
Yeah, I'm coming out of a 12
Sound
even
a
a
little
10.
fuller.
And we'll swap back and forth. But even like...
I think the bridge on this thing's kind of flimsy. Although I've never liked bridge pickups.
I think they're designed to be...
They're a little shrill. Very treble.
I found, and thanks to my buddy David from Portugal, who, he's like, listen, if you're gonna run, like if you want to really drive the bridge pickup in a Strat, you need a compressor, you need a little bit of reverb, and you need a little bit of delay. And it just gives you that bigger soaring, so that way if it's thin, but then it just holds it longer, and then you kind of, the echo and the delay kind of fill it out.
Years and years ago, it never really dawned on me, and I don't know why, to just play all your solos on the neck pickup with a Strat. I just figured, oh, well, that's what the bridge pickup's for. And I never particularly cared for it. I didn't think it had the oomph. And then we were jamming with some kid or whatever, and tried my guitar, and I noticed he flicked it right up to the neck, and he played a solo, and I was like,
butter.
It was like this. Why didn't I think of that? Well, and from then on, I rewired my Strat so that it didn't even. It only had. It was a
three-way without the bridge.
Three-way. It was just neck, and then middle neck and middle bridge, and that was it. That's all I really found I needed. And this would click all the way up neck was for solos, and then middle.
Do you know what I blame part of that on, though? Les Paul has the poker chip, rhythm, treble.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are like, treble, okay, that's my range, and the neck pickup should just be like...
Yeah.
But, like, all the great Les Paul soloists are doing the neck pickup because it's warmer. And actually, this doesn't sound horrendous, but like it's that warmer, fuller, buttery, and you get that like syrupy slash solos.
Yeah.
Like when he goes through a sing, because it's like it's a fuller sound and it actually sounds better on its own.
Yeah.
Versus like
you never really get the full effect until you're trying to cut through a mix or play with some other guys. But I something about bridge pickups and Strats that I was just, and I played a Strat forever, but I didn't dig it. It was just kind of noodly and thin, and then just compare. I suppose it has its application, especially if you're playing like a slinky blues.
Yeah, I like it.
But just then switch to this, and you go. I just find it fuller.
You know what I think it comes in handy is if you're in a band and you're finding a piece of space sound-wise. So you got someone that's really, they're living there, and then you can come over the top, like if you go take your bridge pickup.
I'd probably just go position 4 because I think it's a little.
Yeah, it's also almost.
But it doesn't cut. It doesn't cut as much. So basically, with the 3-way switch, I would just do most of my chunkier full rhythms with middle neck, and then if I wanted to do something kind of like a,
Yeah.
I would go position 4.
You're going to get business soon.
Yeah, and then just neck for all solos, and that was it. And it serviced me for a long time.
Alright, so let's swap guitars.
Sure.
Ignore the pops, the snaps, the cracks. Alright, swap guitars. There you go.
I think I like that better, maybe because it looks more classic Strat.
What do you think? What do you think of the way that neck feels versus this one? Like hand around.
That's got more chunkage to it. It's more.
So this is a more of like a U or a hard C, where that I feel like rolls a little more. This has got like a hard edge right here, and I prefer the feel of that.
Well, what did you pay for this one?
This was $150-ish, and this street new is $250 new from Fender. So they're in the ballpark of each other.
Duncan design pickups are probably a little.
They're better. They're bigger and they're a little more articulate. so a couple
They're
small
kind
changes.
Of comparable.
Yeah, this
They're
is
sort of comparable.
I think
but
this is higher output pickups,
Yeah.
and they're neither. By the way, I mean volume all the way up, amps on what they're on. They're pretty quiet, and maybe it's the room, but we don't have a lot of buzzing. We don't have a lot of craziness going on from single coils. Slight differences, right? The tuners on this do feel better than the tuners on the Harley Benton. It's a little smoother action, and then there's just a little bit more room in a vintage style tuner in between than these when you're tuning them. Not a huge deal. The rosewood cap, Fender purists will knock you and say if your dots should always be fully in rosewood and not splitting the seam there. And so the rosewood on a vintage modified isn't all that thick for the fretboard face, the cap on the fretboard, whereas on that guy, it's fully either set in right. I feel like this is a harder C, where that's a softer C shape, which I find that one personally more comfortable to play. But, and then beauty's in the eye of the beholder. If you hold that one up versus next to this one, it's all kind of what you're into.
I mean, the headstock and the finish on that are more straight up Fender. I don't exactly like guitars that have the body color on the headstock. You do?
I
you
love
like
them.
that?
I love them.
Really?
Give me a Sonic Blue Strat with a rosewood fretboard with a matching headstock and body. I am all over it. But that's the cool
That's
thing.
splitting hairs.
What do you think?
Maybe
Now,
it's
given
just-
this is the most obscene difference in headstock shapes, but I think Harley Benton does a pretty good job of Fender-ish without being super lame.
I guess they're not setting out to make a copy, so they want to get you in the wheelhouse, but have its own kind of couple of specifics that make it its own.
All right, so we're gonna we've noodled through these for a few minutes anyway, and gotten a feel for them.
Well, what would you rate them?
So, if I couldn't do anything to the guitar, I would probably like this one more than that one. Like if I was never going to change anything, I think out of the box, this is a little bit more soul in tone than that one. I think it's because the pickups are a little bit higher output, but they're not. You know, some higher output pickups just are more shitty.
Yeah.
You know, like they're just louder of not great. These are nice, and when I bought this, I bought it because when I plugged it into a Fender Blackface Deluxe, I was like, wow, these are kind of bell-like. They rang and set up pretty well. I think that's a better guitar with pickups that are good, not great. So, like, if I was going to buy something and I wanted to put my pick guard into it, I like the neck on this better, and I like the look of that better, because there's 100,000 Strats like this. And that's just me. Anyway, of these two. So, they, and that one doesn't quite quack as much. You had this one really quacking as you were doing your...
They're both cool.
And you know, I think
I'm probably you invite me here to review stuff, and I'm a bit on the indecisive side, which is probably might not be serving me well in this format.
But it's fun though, because the input's there, right? Like,
yeah.
There is no loser.
Yeah.
In this, I mean, I think what we both came away with is if you've picked up like a bad J Tercer or one of those like Johnsons or there's a Music Around, which is like an old used guitar store, and there's all the guitars basically on the floor.
Yeah.
If they're on the wall, they're over $200. If they're on the floor, they're usually under $100. You pick up a lot of them, and you're like, you know, it's like it has a nice personality. Or I really like the sticker. The Slayer sticker's nice on it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, if you're coming in at $150, these are pretty cool.
Right.
At that price.
Yeah, and I think they're both solid $200-ish guitars. Each have their kind of trade-off. So, but
if you do start now thinking you just got a killer deal on that, so that's why I always say, man, $100,
and that's why $250 new.
If
So
you
if
had
you
said
bought this
I bought
new
it for
$250,
I'd be like, you know, I might start to like this a little bit. You saved $100.
right? And the one thing that it's worth remembering, a Fender Mexican standard Strat today is $550.
New?
Yeah. Now, it used to be...
Man.
Right, so like, you always have to keep that...
just jumped about $200
over the last 5 years, 6 years. They've gone up, or 10 years, whatever it's been, like, since I've looked at them, they're like $500, $550.
Yeah.
So, when you start thinking, oh, $250, and then you're like, but wait, you look, what else new to get and then to get a better Fender one, the classic players are $800 from still Mexico.
But who out there is buying a new? I would think most people if you buy a Mexi Strat, you're probably buying it used.
You should.
It would make more sense.
You should, because used are $300.
Yeah.
You know, so and that's
or lightly used. I mean, if you had one that's beat up, you know. Maybe.
That's who the competitor to these type of this new, and even that new a little bit. A new one of those is competing with a used Mexi, but I think a new one of these, either of these, is better than a lot of used Mexis. A regular Mexi standard. When you get to like the classic players or the Baja Teles or the really nice Mexis, then it's all bets off. Those things are great.
I think if you want a really unique Strat, like you were saying that there are a million Strats like that. This to me just looks a little coffee table-ish.
You're not the first.
I don't know. I just think like I want to
So on the
A
Guitar forums, the old Agile Guitar forums, they're still new. People are on there, but still A Guitar forums. It was referred to as it looks just like my mom's furniture.
It does.
It's like my mother's. You expect like a cup ring.
And even in my taste in furniture, I'm more of a lighter wood guy. So I mean, I don't hate the guitar, but it's just it's a little meh for me.
Yeah, and see, I like that because when you have too many guitars, it's like when you start going to like stronger coffee.
Yeah.
Or like beer, and you're like, this one has a lot of hops. I love the hops in this one. It's very happy because you're like you've overshot the target on the normal shit.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of like that because when you've had your white Strat, white neck, or white Strat maple neck, or this one, that's something different. And George Harrison played a lot of that about in the day, and everyone loved his Rosewood Strat. Although I sound more like Paul, don't I? Anyway. So anyway.
I've always liked maple necks. I don't know why.
I do too, except if there's a matching headstock. Yeah. If the headstock matches, it has to be rosewood because it just looks weird, like color, or something, and then bright maple in between looks weird to me. Except maybe on Rob Chapman has an ML3, his signature model, the blue one. For some reason, that guitar looks alright, but I don't know. Anyway, we're going to continue this video in part 2 in a sec, where we're going to compare the other two and give final thoughts. So please stay tuned or click the next video after this.
Alrighty.
But as usual, I'm Nick.
And I'm Tim.
And we have issues, and they will be continuing. Thanks, folks.